My name is Admian 3Bagain from Best Math 3B, and today I will be presenting to you my geometric model in partial fulfillment of the subject M115 or abstract algebra. So, my geometric model is entitled crystal symmetry. Okay, so let's review the front and the back elements. For my crystal symmetry, we have ILYSOMED and the back 1436258. And if we rotate that or back after rotating, we have the 1875263 or I is symmetric to 1, L is symmetric to 4, Y is symmetric to 3, S is symmetric to 6, O is symmetric to 2, M is symmetric to 5, E is symmetric to 7, and D is symmetric to 8. So why don't we review the front moves of my crystal symmetry? We have the I is equal to do nothing. So as we can see, we will not be doing anything to I. And then let's check the next one. We have L is equal to 1 turn to the left. And as we can see, the rotation went from I here 1. We went from 1 turn to the left. Okay, so that would be the 1 turn to the left. This one is 1. We just moved 1 turn to the left. So from I to L. So 1 turn from I to L. Next, we have the Y is equal to 2 turns to the left. So from I, we will be going to L, 1, 2. So 1, 2, we have the Y. That's why Y is equal to 2 turns to the left. And the next we have the S. S is equal to 3 turns to the left. So 1, 2, and then 3. Or I is 1, 2, and then 3. That's why we have 3 turns to get the S or to get to the S. Next, we have the move O. 4 turns to the left. So I, L, Y, S, and then O. That is why O is here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 turns from I to O. Next, we have the M, which is 5 turns to the left. So from I, we will be turning 5 times. That is when we will be getting to the M. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. That is why M is at the center. We moved 5 times or 5 turns. Next, we have the E, which is 6 turns to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So from I, we turned this snowflakes or this crystal symmetry 6 times to get to E. And then lastly, we have the D, which is 7 turns to the left. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7, which is D. So it means D is equal to 7 turns from I to the left, which is we turned in counterclockwise. Okay, so that would be the movement for front moves, which is ILYSOMED. And then let's check the back. So as we can see, we move or we flipped vertically the the one, so from I, we flipped it vertically, and that is how we got the one. So that would be the one, flip vertically. Okay, and then next we have flip vertically, then 1 turn to the right. So looking at the 1, we will turn 1 turn to the right. So we will turn clockwise 1 time. So from 1 to 4, we turned 1 time. That is why we have flip vertically, then 1 turn to the right. Next, as we can see we flip vertically, so we're still looking at the one, then two turns to the right. So one and then two. That is why we have the three here, because we moved three times from one, I mean two times from one to the right, which is clockwise. And then next, we have the flip vertically, then three turns to the right, which is six. So one, two, and three. We flipped or we turned the snowflakes three times to get to the six. Okay, so to the right, which means clockwise. Next, we have the flip vertically, so we're still looking at the one, but this one we need to turn it four turns to the left. So the example, we're looking here at the one. So if we turn it to the right, I mean to the left, we are turning it counterclockwise. So one, two, three, and four. So four turns we will be going back to one, which is two, is the four turns to the left. Okay, so one, two, three, and four. Next, we have flipped vertically, then three turns to the left. That is why we have the five. So from one, example, we're looking at the one, then we will move one again. So one, two, and three. That is why five is there. Okay, so look at this as one, and then we have here the eight and the seven, and then the five. Next, we have the flip vertically, then two turns to the left. So we're looking at the seven. So example, we have it a one, and then here the one will be here, so the eight, and then if the one is already here, the seven will pop there. That is why we moved two turns counterclockwise to reveal the seven, and that is the move for the seven. Two turns to the left. And then lastly, we have flipped vertically, then one turn to the left, which is eight. So looking at this is one, for example, and then we turned it to the left, which is counterclockwise, and then the eight will be revealed. That is why eight is one turn to the left. So that would be the moves for back after rotating. That is 1, 4, 3, 6, 2, 5, 7, 8. So as we can see, we have here all the possible moves. Okay, we have here the ILYSOMED and 1, 4, 3, 6, 2, 5, 7, 8. So now that we've reviewed all of the possible movements for this crystal symmetry, the next project is to show that it is a permutation group. Okay, so now that we know all of the movements of each element or the moves of each element, let's now reveal what would be the front or the symbol for the front. We have here the epsilon, and for the back we have here the upsilon. So for this project I will use epsilon and upsilon. Okay, for turning, for front moves we'll use epsilon for turning, and then for the back moves is upsilon. Okay, so for flipping vertically and then turning it, 1, 2, 4. Okay, so are you ready? Let's check now. The epsilon, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then for upsilon, 1, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Okay, we have here the front, which is epsilon. We have epsilon sub 0 is equal to I, which is equal to do nothing, and for L it would be epsilon sub 1, and for Y it would be epsilon sub 2, and for 3 we have epsilon sub I mean for Y we have epsilon sub 2, for S we have epsilon sub 3, for O we have epsilon sub 4, and for M we have epsilon sub 5, for E we have epsilon sub 6, and D we have epsilon sub 7. And for our upsilon, we have epsilon sub 1 for 1, epsilon sub 2 for 4, epsilon sub 3 for 3, epsilon sub 4 for 6, epsilon sub 5 for 2, epsilon sub 6 for 5, epsilon sub 7 for 7, and epsilon sub 8 for 8. So those are the movements. These are the movements for our front and back or epsilon. Okay, so now let's check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 would be the original of the front. So instead of ILYSOMED, it will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 for front. So as we can see, we have here do nothing. So the original result will still be the same because it is epsilon sub 0. So do nothing times do nothing, we have do nothing. And then this one, as we can see, it rotated one turn to the left. So the result, it would be 1 would be 2, as we can see, and then the 2 would be 3, and then the 3 would be 4, and then the 4 would be 5. So you can see, and then at the 5 it will be 6, and then 6 will be 7, 7 would be 8, and lastly 8 would be 1. So that would be the movement, or the permutation movement for this epsilon sub 1. Next, let's check what would be the movement for epsilon sub 2. As we can see, it moved from 1 to 3. So the new 1 would be 3, the new 2 would be 4, the new 3 would be 5, the new 4 would be 6, the new 5 will be 7, the new 6 will be 8, the new 7 will be 1, and the new 8 would be 2. Okay, so that is the movement, or the element, the group for epsilon sub 2. Now we have epsilon sub 3, so it moved 3 turns to the left. That is why after 3 turns to the left, 4 would be the new one. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, and 3. And as we can see, it moved 4 turns to the left. So the 5 will be the new one. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then for epsilon sub 5, we will turn it 5 turns to the left. So we have here the new 1 would be the 6, and then new 2 would be 7, new 3 would be 8, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Next, we will check the epsilon sub 6. We have the new 1 as 7, so 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And for epsilon sub 7, we will be turning it 7 turns to the left. So example, we have here the 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, or 8. Okay, that's why the 1 would be the 8, or the new 1 would be 8, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then to 7. So those are the movements, or the permutation element for epsilon sub 7, or epsilon sub 0 to epsilon sub 7. So now that we know all of the movements for this, let's now move to the next one, which is the crystal symmetry back after rotating. Okay, so let's check. As we can see, from original to result. Okay, so flip vertically. So from original, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which is the original of this movement. We have the result. If we flip it vertically for epsilon sub 1, we will get 1, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. So instead of 1, 2, we will have 1, 8 because we flip it vertically. Next, after flipping vertically, we already have the 1, 8, 7, 6, 5. We will turn it 1 turn to the right. So we have 2 instead of 1. So 2, 1, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, and 3. And then next, we have flip vertically, then 2 turns to the right. So we still have here the 1, and then 2, and then the 3. So the new 1 would be 3. The new 2 would be still 2. The new 3 is 1. The new 4 is 8. The new 5 is 7. The new 6 is still 6. The new 7 is 5. And lastly, the new 8 is 4. So that would be the element for epsilon sub 3. And for epsilon sub 4, as we can see, it turned 3 turns to the right. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. That is why we have here the 4. So the new one is 4. The new 2 is 3, 2, 1, 8, 7, 6, and 5 is the new 8. So that will be the element for epsilon sub 4. And for epsilon sub 5, we have the 5 as the new one. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 8, 7, and 6. So for epsilon sub 6, we have 7, or then 3 turns to the left. Okay, so we're looking at here as the 1. So we are turning 1, 2, 3. Okay, so 1 would be here. So the 6 would be the new one. 1 is 6, 2 is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 8, and 7 would be the last number. And then let's check the next one. We have epsilon sub 7. So flip vertically, then 2 turns to the left. Okay, so we're looking at here the 1, 2, and then, 1, 2. Okay, so 1 in here, and then the 7 will be the new one. 1 is 7, 2 is 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 8. And then lastly, we have 1, and then 1 turn to the left. That is why 8 is the new one, because we turn it 1 turn to the left, as I've already explained earlier. That is why we have 1 as 8, 2 is 7, 3 is 6, 4 is 5, 5 is 4, 6 is 3, 7 is 2, and 8 is 1. That is why, looking at this, we have the permutation of crystal symmetry for front. We have E sub 0 to E sub 7. And for back, we have the permutation from epsilon sub 1 to epsilon sub 8. So these are the permutation, or the movements that we will be multiplying. Okay, so after knowing the permutation of this table, let us now perform the given operation, where the operation is multiplication. As we can see, we have here the permutation group operation table. So anything that we multiply with, or two elements that we will be multiplying together, will be seen here. So as we can see, epsilon sub 0 times, or star epsilon sub 0, because we will be multiplying the operation multiplication. We have do nothing times do nothing will still be do nothing. That is why the answer here. Oh, I forgot about this one. As we can see at the top part, we have the original, and then the lower part would be the result. So if we're looking at the answer, we'll be looking at 1 and 1, 1 and 1. So the answer would be 1, 2, 1 still 1, 2 is still 2, 2 is still 3, still 3, 4 is still 4, 5 is still 5. That is why epsilon sub 0 is still epsilon sub 0, because if you multiply do nothing to do nothing, I will still be the same. That is why I will no longer show the multiplication in epsilon sub 0, because anything you multiply by that element will still be the same. Okay, so if we know that epsilon sub 0 star epsilon sub 1 will still be epsilon sub 1, meaning anything that you multiply with epsilon sub 0, which is the identity element in this table, will still result to the element itself. That is why for this one, we can see that the table for this is this one. Okay, as we can see, therefore, this shows that everything you multiply with the identity epsilon sub 0 will be equal to the element being multiplied. Okay, so epsilon sub 0 star epsilon sub 1 is still the same. So I think let's start with epsilon sub 1 times epsilon sub 1. So let's check. So epsilon sub 1 star epsilon sub 1. Looking at the original, which is at the top part, let's check what is the result. We have here 1 is to 2. So at the second table or permutation group, we will be multiplying it to the first. So 1 is to 2, so we're looking at the 2 here at the top, and then 3 would be the new one. So if we're looking at the 2, 2 is 3, so we'll be looking at 3, so the new 2 would be 4. So this would be the answer. So as we can see, 1 is to 2, so we'll be looking at the 2, it's 3. 2 is to 3, so we'll be looking at 3, it's 4. 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1 and 2. So what is the answer for epsilon sub 1 star epsilon sub 1? It will be equal to epsilon sub 2. Okay, next, let's check the epsilon sub 1 star epsilon sub 2. We have here the original at the top, and then let's see if what is the new one. So we will be looking here at the 3, as we can see. So that's it. We're looking. So that's it. We're looking at the 1 and 3. So looking at this one at the right side of the equation, we'll be looking the new or the original number of the result. So we have here 3 is the new 4. So the new one here now is 4. That's it. So the new one is can be seen at the 3 at the first equation or the first part of the equation, which is 4. And the 2 can be seen at the 4 here. So the new 2 is 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, and 3. So, so the element here would be epsilon sub 3. So epsilon sub 1 star epsilon sub 2 is epsilon sub 3. Looking at the pattern shown in the table, we can conclude that the elements are shifting one position at a time. That is why from epsilon sub 1 to epsilon sub 7, we are simply counting up to epsilon sub 0. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 will still be the same. And then if you reach the end of the number, you will just go back to the first number. Okay, so let's check. What would be the epsilon sub 1 star epsilon sub 1? So here we have the epsilon sub 1 and epsilon sub 2. So this one is epsilon sub 1 and this is epsilon sub 2. Looking at the original here. These are the original. This will be the result. So let's check. 1 is to 1, so we'll be looking at 1. So the new one is 2. 2 is 8, so we'll be looking at 8. 2 is the new 2 would be 1. So let's check. Yes. Okay, 1, 1. We can see that the new one is 2. So the new 2 can be seen at 8. So the new 2 is 1. So 2, 1, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. So the answer is epsilon sub 2. Okay, so the epsilon sub 2 is the answer for epsilon sub 1. I multiplied to epsilon sub 2. I mean epsilon sub 1. So the answer is epsilon sub 2. So now let's check what is the answer if we multiplied epsilon sub 1 star epsilon sub 2. Okay, looking at the original above, let's check what is the new one after multiplying the two. So we can see that the new one can be seen at the 2 of the first equation, or the first part of the equation. So the new one would be 3. And the new 2 can be seen at 1. So the new 2 is 2. And then the new 3 can be seen at the 8. So the new 3 is 1. So let's check if it's correct. So yes, it's correct. Is the new one is 3 because 2 can be seen at 3. And then the new 2 is still 2 because the 1 is still 2. And then the 3 can be seen at 8. And then 8 is the answer is 1. So what is this element? The element is epsilon sub 3. So that is the answer after multiplying epsilon sub 1 multiplied to epsilon sub 2. So now let's check the epsilon sub 1 and epsilon sub 3. Looking at the original, let's check. We have here the new one can be seen at 3. So the new one is 4 because as we can see at the 3, at the below the 3 we have the 4. That is why the new one is 4. The new 2 can be seen at 2 and it's 3. And the 3 can be seen at 1 and it's 2. So what is the element? Okay, it's epsilon sub 4. And then it will just be so on and so forth. Looking at the epsilon sub 1 and epsilon sub 4, we have the origin of the top. So we can see the new one at 4, and the new one would be 5 because below the 4 is 5. And that's it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 8, 7, 6. Okay, so we're just going from the top to bottom. And if we reach the last part, we'll just start here at the start of the number of the next one. Okay, and this answer would be epsilon sub 5. Yep, it is indeed epsilon sub 5. And then let's check the epsilon sub 1. Epsilon sub 1 star epsilon sub 5, we have, as we can see, 1. So the new one the new one can be seen at the 5, and the 5 has the number 6. So 6, 7, 8, or 6. And then the 2 can be seen at 4, and the 4 is 5. Okay, then 3 is 4. So 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 8, 7. It's epsilon sub 6. So now let's check the epsilon sub 1 and epsilon sub 6. As we can see, looking at the and the result, we have 1. The new one can be seen at 6, and it is 7. So 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 8 would be the answer. And I'm correct. So what is the element? We have the element epsilon sub 7 as the answer of epsilon sub 1 and epsilon sub 6. Okay, next we have epsilon sub 1 and epsilon sub 7, and as we can see at the top, we have this as the original number, and let's check what is the answer if we multiply, or what is the new number 1. So as we can see, the 1 can be seen at the 7 at the first part of the equation. And as we can see at the equation, we have 8. So the new one now is 8. So 8, and then I think 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, I'm correct. And what is the element for this one? Let's check. Okay, it's epsilon sub 8. So that would be the answer for epsilon sub 1 multiplied epsilon sub 7. It's equal to epsilon sub 8. Let's check the last one. We have the epsilon sub 1 and epsilon sub 8. And as we can see here, the original, let's check what is the new number 1. So as we can see that 8. So the new one is still 1. Right? The new one is still 1. And let's check what is the complete answer. It's 1876543 and that's it. And the answer would be epsilon sub 1. Yep, I am correct. It's epsilon sub 1, and that would be the answer for epsilon sub 1 star epsilon sub 0 to epsilon sub 8. Okay, so let's check what would be the answer at epsilon sub 2. So for epsilon sub 2 times epsilon sub 1, we can see the datas at the top. At the top, we have the original. And then as we can see, the new one now is 3. Or it's 4. It should be 4. Okay? Because 1 is at 2. So we should look at the 2. And the 2 is 4. So it's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3. Okay? So that is the answer. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3 is the answer. What kind of element? It's epsilon sub 3. So let's check the epsilon sub 2, star epsilon sub 2. We have, looking at the original position, 1 is 3. So 1 is 3, so the new one is 5. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4. And what element is this? Let's check. It's epsilon sub 4. So now, looking at the pattern shown in the table, we can conclude that the elements are shifting one position at a time. That is why from epsilon sub 2 to epsilon sub 7, we are simply counting up to epsilon sub 0. And then when we got to epsilon sub 0, it will just 0 and then 1. Okay, so let's check the epsilon sub 2 to epsilon sub 1. Okay, epsilon sub 2 star epsilon sub 1. We have the answer. Mm, okay, we have the answer 1 star 1 and 1 is 3. So that would be the new one. It's 3. Okay, so 3218765 and the answer or the element is epsilon sub 3. Let's check the next one. We have epsilon sub 2 star epsilon sub 2. So the new one is 2 and the new one would be 4. Let's check. So yes, 4321875 would be the answer. Because we can see 1 is 2. So let's check at 2, it's 4. And 2 is 1, it's 2 is 3. 3 is 8 and 8 is 2. 4 is 7, 7 is 8, and so on and so forth. We have the element epsilon sub 4. Okay. So looking at the pattern, looking at the pattern shown in the table, we can conclude that the elements are shifting. So from epsilon sub 3, we go to epsilon sub 8. And then after we hit the last number, we will just be going back at the 1. And that's it. We will just do that at the rest of the table up until we get to the last one. So we know now that we are just shifting from 1 to 2. So 2 is 3, so this one will be 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 up until this one become, I think it will become 8 is 8, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7. Okay, the same with this one, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then the end would be, 8, and then the end would be 7. Okay, so that would be everything. So let's check what would be the number or what would be the table of result or the completed table of result. And as we can see, this is the table of result. Okay, so after performing everything, after performing the multiplication from each element from epsilon sub 0 to epsilon sub 8, we have this data right here. That is the original table. So now that we know that this is the complete product, so as I've said, from epsilon sub 0, 7, it will become to epsilon sub 6. From epsilon sub 8, it will be epsilon sub 7. And then if we start with epsilon sub 1, it will just be 8, 7, 6, 6. So now that we are at the end or at the start, we will be going to 8 to 2, and then 2, 1, and then 8 to 3, 3 to 1, and then 8 to 4. So 4, and then this one would be 5, 5, and this one would be 6, 6, then this one would be 7, 7, and this would be 8, 8, and this one should be 1. The same with this, epsilon sub 0, then we will just go back to 7, and then 1, 1 is 2, 2 is 3, 3 is 4, 4 is 5, 5 is 6, 6 is 7, 7 to 0, because that would be the end. Okay, so that would be the secret of this whole table. So if you just saw the pattern, you can do it as easy as you can. So after doing every multiplication, or after doing all of the combination of these two, we have here now the complete table. Now that we have the complete table, the only thing that we need to do is to check if this one can be a permutation group. Okay? To conclude, or to check if this is a permutation group, what we need to do, or group under permutation multiplication with the 16 symmetries from the geometric model I have constructed, the following condition must be satisfied. So we can say that all of this, or this completed table of results from doing all of the permutation multiplication of the 16 symmetries, we'll be checking if all of this is satisfied. Is it close? Is it associative? Does it has an identity element? Does it has an inverse element for all? And if all of those are checked, this is a permutation group, or it forms a group under permutation multiplication. Okay, now let's check. Is it closed? That would be the first condition. Is it close? So as we can see, since the resulting element were just found in the set E, epsilon sub 0, epsilon sub 1, epsilon sub 2, epsilon sub 3, epsilon sub 4, epsilon sub 5, epsilon sub 6, epsilon sub 7, epsilon sub 1, epsilon sub 2, epsilon sub 3, epsilon sub 4, epsilon sub 5, epsilon sub 6, epsilon sub 7, and epsilon sub 8. No elements have been found outside this set. So this means this table of results is closed because no element can be seen outside this. Okay. Therefore, the permutation table is closed. So let's check that one. So the condition, as we can see, it's checked. How about the next one? Second condition, is it associative? To confirm that the permutation table is associative, we must flip it by 180 degrees. Okay? The flipped table must be the same as the arrangement of the resulting elements. Okay, so why don't we flip it? Ta-da! Okay, so as we can see, it is flipped now. But as we can see, we don't understand anything. So we need to face it to us. Ta-da! Okay, now that we can see here the perfect example of the flipped or 180 degrees flip of these table. We just need to rearrange everything. Okay, so first interchange the row of epsilon sub 7 and epsilon sub 1 because it should be epsilon sub 0 1 first. Okay, and then next we need to interchange the row of epsilon sub 6 to epsilon sub 2, which is this. All of these arrows should be interchanged except the epsilon sub 4 row. Same with this one. Let's check. So we have corrected the first one, as we can see. We have here the epsilon sub 0, epsilon sub 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Same with this, we have epsilon sub 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the only thing that we did not change is the epsilon sub 4 and the epsilon sub 5 here. Okay, so let's check. Is it associative? So by inserting and interchanging rows, the resulting elements on the flipped table can be arranged like on the original permutation table. As we can see, it is just the same as the original table. So this means it is associative. So let's put a check there. Check. Okay, let's move forward to the next one. The third condition, does identity element exist? Okay, since there is an intersection of the row and the tables that was the same as the order of the elements or the outlines of the table, then there exists an element, and that is epsilon sub 0. Okay, that is the identity element because anything that you multiply to that element would be itself still. Okay, you're just looking at the mirror or something like that. So let's put a check there. There or for it has an identity element which is epsilon sub 0. And last one, let's check. Fourth condition, does inverse element for all exist? Since there is this identity element for every row that it is epsilon sub 0, we can now conclude that this or this has still there it really has an inverse element for all because epsilon sub 0 star epsilon sub 0 is epsilon sub 0, epsilon star sub 1 star epsilon sub 7 is epsilon sub 0. So the inverse element of epsilon sub 1 is epsilon sub 7. Okay, so anything that you multiply with the two elements or combination of two elements and the answer is the identity element, that would be the inverse of the first element that you multiplied. Okay, that is why the epsilon sub 2 inverse is equal to epsilon sub 6, epsilon sub 3, we have the inverse epsilon sub 5, and epsilon sub 4 inverse is epsilon sub 4, epsilon sub 5 is the inverse is epsilon sub 3, epsilon sub 6 inverse is epsilon sub 2, and epsilon sub 7 inverse of it is epsilon sub 1. And for epsilon sub 1 to epsilon sub 8, the inverse element would be themselves as well because as we can see it is slanted as this one, so it would just be the same. Okay, so let's just put a check on there. So there has an inverse element for all, so therefore we can conclude that this table or this permutation of crystal symmetry table forms a group under permutation multiplication with the 16 symmetries from the geometric model I've constructed because the following conditions are satisfied. It is closed. As we can see, check. It is indeed associative after flipping 180 degrees. And there it had or it has an identity element which is epsilon sub 0 and every element or each element has an inverse because as we can see the epsilon sub 0 can be seen all throughout the table. So that would be it. Thank you so much for listening, and that would be my project number 5, which is permutation group. And again, my name is 3Bagain. Have a nice day. Thank you.